just really not a good idea to completely demolish the weapon. But what From Software could do if they got like a feedback of the type that the weapon is utterly broken across the board, like shit tons of people, like Reddit, not Reddit, like content creators, especially the more of the casual nature content creators, were just screaming constantly that Rivers of Blood is utterly broken, it's super shit, it is unhealthy for the game, it has no counterplay, I'm dying in 2 hits, it doesn't matter that I am just running the freaking Source Seal and 0 resistances. They are getting bombarded by this type of content. It was inevitable that freaking Rivers of Blood is going to get over-nerfed because they are getting such negative feedback. There is no balanced opinion. There was like feedback that you only could read as, okay, this weapon is just overly OP. It needs like super hard nerf. When in reality, it really didn't need that hard of the nerf. Maybe kind of the adjustments in particular situations. Like for example, okay, like in situation when Rivers of Blood is used against singular player in the gang situation where many people like using the Rivers of Blood at once. Maybe like, you know, maybe they supposed to leave insane build up, but like basically make the weapon deal even less of the poise damage or something. Like, you know, they basically removed half of the build up out of this weapon. And on top of that, nerfed the hitbox and the base damage. They nerfed the weapon all around. In my opinion, not a good decision. And the practical examples that I witness every single day playing this game is that Rivers of Blood is laughable right now. This weapon just has nothing.
One thing I'll say about that, it feels that like for Rivers of Blood, the main thing, it left a bad impact on the game just because, yeah, like a lot of people didn't know how to make their build. There's a lot of ways to stack ROB. It's not very an intuitive ability. It just sort of comes out of nowhere and one-shots you. If you don't know how to like properly dodge it. From that impression, like of course all the creators are going to get this opinion very fast. You know, from the fact that it does have some competitive say, like even when you're really prepared, it's obviously going to sort of feel like that. So I think the nerf, like obviously in a 1v1 setting, I think that was not the right way to go necessarily. Ultimately, like in terms of the exact fix, but I think it was an ultimate good of the game for just not having that there, because something like crouch poke or like let's say halberd, which is maybe ultimately stronger than ROB even back then, those things didn't have like the crazy like ambush ability that it did, right? Like, and especially not with as little effort, right? Like with crouch poke, you still need to know the inputs, the timing, and whatever to not just do a second R1 instead of like another crouch poke. But with the ROB, literally it's press one button. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I definitely think that was a sort of bad messaging there where they didn't get like proper information on that. A lot of it was just the sort of outrage. But if we're looking at the actual thing that they ended up doing, I think it was a bit under, and was because they wanted to be safe. But it was a pretty detailed change, and I think they actually might have taken from what I said about it on the website, because it was pretty detailed in saying like how it actually gets to that point where it feels like the most absurd thing in the world, the most unfair thing in the world, that ends up like, you know, killing you. Status is still freaking the worst thing in the world on low level. Like I'm pretty sure status only goes up like 80% from like, you know, base level to max level on weapons, right? From just the weapon scaling. But in terms of like the weapon level scaling. But attack goes up like 4 times, I'm pretty sure. So if you're looking at that, the base level with the robustness being like 1/5 of what you can get by optimizing at meta level, like that's obviously a huge discrepancy. And if you've played at all at low level, like I've died when I was at low level just by rolling a guy's katana, like his basic sort of katana, not even blood, I don't think. And then I get hit by the backswing, and then I roll after that, and I get like phantom hit, like or like I don't know, it was just like in 3 hits to death, just because the bleed buildup was so fast and the bleed damage relative to your health at the level was so high. So yeah, I guess they might have also looked at it from the twinking perspective.
Okay.
But again,
we got it. I found it.
Oh yeah, it's there. Like you see the details of it.
Reduce corpse pillar bleed build up by 40 to 50%. Reduce corpse pillars damage by... Yeah, okay, so you want only Ash of War like a nerfs, essentially.
Yeah, I didn't even suggest some of the complex hitbox changes. That was,
yeah, and that's actually... I have that feeling that the guys that are currently responsible for patching Elden Ring, they might go a little bit over the board, because like the changes in previous Souls games were usually numerical changes, like regulations, you know, changes to the numbers of the weapons.
Yeah,
but
they're kind of going off with the animation.
Yeah,
stuff.
they are like literally reworking stuff. Like the Rivers of Blood got reworked, the Glintstone Pebble got reworked. This like the Quick Step and Bloodhound Step got reworked. They are like maybe like guys back in the days of Dark Souls like were doing little bit not much enough, let's call it that way, to like balance the game properly, but guys in Elden Ring might go a little bit over the board, because like I don't think that, you know, the idea, for example, with the gradual decrease of the range on the Quick Step and Bloodhound Step, it's kind of cool, but at the same time, it's not really needed. Like, you know, it's maybe.
I think it's actually like a anti-noob thing, because like, you know, in the first place, what like I guess there would be situations where, you know, like the subsequent range, yeah, definitely, but like. I feel like it was specifically like that was a point like people were saying like, oh, like this the fact that they can spam it and not just do it once. So that was like one of the main reasons why they did it. But I'm glad they sort of went with this sort of complex change. I think like Bloodhound Step is obviously still super problematic for 1v1s, right? But like in the invasion sort of scenario, a lot of people are starting to use it because they feel sort of comfortable with it from the fact that you still have stuff like Moonveil and whatever, right? So, like, I think it's sort of fine with how it is, and it's just, if they, you know, sort of bring everything to par, like, bring all the stuff that's stupidly undertuned up, and bring all the stuff that's horribly overtuned a bit down, then, like, you could, you know, maybe even justify bringing something like that down, like, even further, right?
Yeah.
But with the corpse pile, it sort of feels like they already just took it to the sort of, or took it beyond, honestly.
Yeah, like the for example, nerf to the regular damage, in my opinion, absolutely uncalled for. The nerf to the hitboxes, I'm not sure about that one. Like when you are nerfing like the build up as hard as they did, like is that really like that needed? It's like G said, like maybe they were actually legitimately balancing it around like a low level invasions, but to be honest, it really doesn't make sense, because like the low level is going to be not balanced no matter what, especially with the fact that you have possibility to summon over leveled phantoms and so on. Yeah, it's like you cannot really balance anything there. It's just complete shitfest, always was and always going to be. And yeah, it's in to be honest, I cannot tell like about any game I have ever played where the balance would be focused around, you know,
the lowest level.
Yeah, around the low levels. It's just like counterproductive. If that's true that they balanced it around the low levels, it is just not really smart approach, I would say.